All right. Good morning, Doug. Today, I'd like to start off with making a strong pitch. We don't sell much on these. Actually, I'd say we sell nothing at all, but except for maybe ideas. But today, I do want to sell something. I want to sell people on joining this meetup group that we created based around this file concept, which we'll get into a little bit further. We got some really good feedback from people last week on an interview that we did with a friend of yours, Kolia, who is a very interesting person. And I think he had an interesting story to tell, an interesting perspective on what's happening in the world. But I think what people seemed to get the most out of it was, the talk that we had around how, being able to be around and know people that have similar values and are of like mind, and how that's the basis of enjoyment for life, first of all. And it also is becoming more and more valuable, more important, I think, as the world is becoming more chaotic. So because of that, and because of the work you've done with Phyles in the past, Doug, I wanted to, launch our own attempt at it, and using this tool, which most people are probably familiar with, called Meetups. So I'll have a link to that in the description. It's free to join, but essentially allows us to connect with people of like mind, other viewers of this channel. And also there are some specific events that I'm going to be at, some that Doug's going to be at over the course of the next several months, that will create an opportunity for us to have meetups along the way. And just quickly, those events, there's a first event is March 8th through 11th. It's called Float Fest. It's in Goss, Texas, which I believe is outside of Austin. It's a anarcho-poco viewing party. So if you're interested in the work that they're doing, can't make it down to Mexico for that, this could be an opportunity for you to join. I'll be there. There's Pork Fest, which is a traditional libertarian event that happens in New Hampshire in June. And then there's also Freedom Fest, which is happening July 21st through 24th in Rapid City, South Dakota, which, Doug, you're a speaker at, which you have been for a long, long time at this event. So people have opportunity to meet you there,
Yes.
hopefully. And in any case, I encourage you to join. So, Doug, how important do you think how important have networks been, the people you know, been in your life to this point?
Well, I'd say very important, very important, because you're really only as alive as you can communicate. So you're not very alive if you're just in a prison cell your whole life, where you don't get to talk to anybody else or see anybody else. Okay, that's one extreme. So let's go to the other extreme as far as we can, where we get to meet all the people that we can and talk to all of them and exchange values and views with them. And that's one of the reasons, of course, that what they're doing with these lockdowns today is so terribly destructive. It's making it much harder to get together with people and share ideas with them than it used to be. And even if you can get together with them, you have to wear a mask, so you can't even see who you're really dealing with. And you have to stay away from them, which makes it harder to. So this is what's going on today is actually quite destructive of civilization itself, and destructive of everybody's personal psychology, because as I said, you're only as alive as you are with meeting with other people. Otherwise, it's like putting yourself in solitary confinement. We wanted to get as far away from that as possible. So anyway, that's a good idea, Matt. I like the idea. It's sounds like fun. And I know I don't personally get a chance to hang out with people that I like and people that I share values with, because statistically speaking, we're like a rounding error in the world's population. So it'd be nice to find more folks like that. Absolutely.
Well, and even though we're a rounding error in terms of numbers, there's a lot of us, and you see it in the in the views that we get in these videos. Even though it's not obviously a gigantic YouTube channel or anything like that, there are thousands and thousands of views that we get on every video we do. We have approaching 11,000 subscribers. There's 2,000 people that have joined our email list to make sure they can stay in contact in case there's problems with YouTube in the future. And there's also we have I don't know, like 600 people in our Telegram channel, which is a chat app on your phone. So there are a lot of us actually. And the important thing, how do we take it from virtual and actually into the physical world? And that's really the goal with this. And it's really hard to build relationships virtually with people, obviously, but and that's why moving into the physical world I think is really important. Now, you did something a long time ago called that you call the Eris Society, which basically is almost like the TED Talk. It was almost like TED Talks, wasn't it? I mean, can you tell people about that event you did?
Well, actually, uh, TED Talks may have had their origination in the Eris Society, believe it or not, because the first one that I did, they were almost all in Aspen, uh, Colorado, except there was one in Stowe, Vermont, and there was one in San Martin de los Andes in Argentina. But in any event, when back in 1979, my book Crisis Investing was #1 on the bestsellers list, and I was appearing on lots of national talk shows. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to reach out and meet a whole bunch of people that I wanted to know, but didn't know how to get to know. So I formed something called the Eris Society. That's after the Greek goddess of discord.
Mm.
And perhaps I should tell the story of the goddess Eris and why I call it the Eris Society.
Yeah.
Uh, it's all about the Trojan War. And not many people know how the Trojan War actually started. The myth goes this way. One day, Zeus, the king of the gods, decided to have a nice party on Olympus for all the other gods and goddesses. And he invites all of them except for Eris, who is the goddess of discord, because no matter where she shows up, there's going to be trouble. So he doesn't invite her. So they're all gathered together. And of course, Eris resents that. And she commissions Hephaestus, the smith of the gods, beforehand, to make a golden apple. And on the apple is written the Greek word Callisti, which means to the fairest. So that's all she has to do. She has this golden apple, throws it into the ballroom, and everybody looks at it. And of course, all the goddesses want it, but it boils down to just 3 big goddesses. Hera, the goddess of wealth and power, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love.
Mm.
So they ask the gods to decide which of them deserves the apple. Well, the gods are clever enough to know that they're going to make 2 total enemies for 1 fickle friend. So they pass and they say, why don't we just have the fairest man decide who the fairest goddess is? So it turns out that the fairest man is a Trojan shepherd, but also a prince, primitive times, named Paris. And Mercury, the messenger of the gods, goes there to present him with his dilemma, choose the fairest goddess. And of course, right after that, the 3 goddesses in sequence go down to bribe him. And Hera says, if you choose me, I'll make you the richest man in the world with the most powerful kingdom. Okay, good deal. Athena goes to him and says, if you choose me, I'll make you the wisest man in the world. Okay. Then Aphrodite goes to him and says, if you choose me, I'll give you the most beautiful woman in the world. So, idiot that he is, he chooses Aphrodite. And all right, so what happens next? Aphrodite has to deliver with the most beautiful woman in the world, who it turns out is Helen, who was the wife of a Spartan prince named Agamemnon.
Mm.
And Paris goes to Sparta with the help of Aphrodite, steals her away, takes her back to Troy. And of course, now Agamemnon's got to get her back. And this is how the Trojan War starts. All right, so long story. I thought the Eris Society might be fun because the idea was to invite all kinds of weird and troublesome and wonderful people there, and spend 3 days together in Aspen and get to know each other. And
Hmm.
so the first Eris meeting, I sent invitations out to a number of people that I wanted to meet. And who came to that one? Well, one guy that came to it was John Brockman. And John, I knew before because he'd founded something in New York called the Reality Club. And that was a little bit different. He was John he's still around, but he's not active anymore, was a literary agent. And the Reality Club was basically people that he acted as a literary agent for.
Hmm.
So anyway, after he came to Eris, which was somewhat different from the Reality Club, he's very wired with the communications community. And he had a hand in founding TED Talks. So
Hmm.
TED Talks kind of indirectly came from his Reality Club and my Eris Society, for what it's worth. At least that's the story. And maybe you can't trust these stories any more than you can trust the story about how the Trojan War started. I mean, these things all
Yeah.
get lost in the mists of history.
I love
So
how you.
anyway, John,
I didn't.
huh?
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't really understand that the idea of. I didn't understand that she. I knew she was the goddess of discord, but I didn't really. So I didn't really get why. Never really understood the name. I never heard that story before. But I'm not surprised at all that you would want to bring a bunch of people together and name it after the goddess of discord. I mean, you know, as a contrarian, liking the back and forth and trying to. I mean, most people now, it seems like you're looking for a consensus, right? They want groups that all agree with each other. It's the exact opposite of
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah, well, this was an opportunity for 3 days to mix it up and exchange ideas with people that actually the whole idea of the Eris Society was to get to know people that ideally you'd heard of before and wanted to know, but didn't have an opportunity. So anybody that you walked up to at the Eris gathering, when they introduced himself, you'd say, "Oh, you were the guy that did this." And we had a lot of that type of thing to start with. Like at the first Eris, in addition, Stuart Brand came.
Mm.
And Stuart, I guess, became famous when he founded the Whole Earth Catalog and a lot of spin-offs from the Whole Earth Catalog. It was a real phenomenon back in the day. And who else came? Harry Brown came. One of my favorite people ever. I mean, Harry wrote the famous book, You Can Profit from the Coming Devaluation, which correctly called what happened in 1971 with the dollar and gold and silver, and subsequently wrote a superb book called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. Just an all-around great guy. Later, Harry was the two-time candidate for president of the Libertarian Party. So, well, everybody makes mistakes, including Harry. So he was there. Who else came? Larry Abraham, who wrote a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy, which was a huge bestseller back in the day.
Mm.
And who else came? Gary North came, written so many books that they'd fill a shelf. I mean, Gary is the only person that I know who can write faster than most people can read.
Wow.
And he really is something of a genius. He's got a dark side. He's I think he's called a Christian Reconstructionist, which is to say, politically speaking, he thinks it would be ideal to have the U.S. restructured to be run like Leviticus or Deuteronomy in the Old Testament.
Wow.
But he keeps that when he's in polite company. He doesn't talk about that. But he's one of the world's best living historians and economists. Apart from that, so Gary brought a lot to the party. So that was just the first Eris, and it grew from there. And the
You
first
did
one
it
was a
for
lot of
30
fun. Oh, I
years.
know who else came. I know who else came. Listen, you forget these things. Peter Lund, who became a very close friend of mine, he's died. Peter founded Soldier of Fortune magazine with Bob Brown, who's still alive, and later they split, and Peter ran Paladin Press, which was a book publishing arm, and Bob, of course, ran Soldier of Fortune, which I guess is still out there, but I don't know. And Peter brought Ragnar Benson with him, who's written a lot of books on strange subjects like fabricating your own weaponry and countering the state's heavy weapons and all kinds of strange things. And of course, since Peter died, he was an ex-captain in the special forces. He was a tunnel rat in Vietnam, of all things.
Wow.
And so since when Peter kicked the bucket, the Paladin Press has gone out of existence. But anyway, Ragnar's books, very well worth reading. And so anyway, you can see it was a great mix.
Yeah.
Even the first one.
At one point you had like the leader of the Hells Angels, right? Was one of the.
Yeah, absolutely. One year, Sonny Barger came. I always wanted to meet Sonny, and we got along great. And that was, it's funny. We had a couple pictures taken of us together. I don't know where they are. I suppose they exist someplace, but I'm not good at keeping pictures. And so a friend of mine who was kind of a big deal cop saw a picture, which was developed later during the meeting. He said, "Look, I tell you not to let this get out, but they already know about it. You don't want yourself in a picture with Sonny Barger." But anyways, Sonny is a very, very civilized, enjoyable guy. I mean, and you'd have to be a very smart guy to be able to run a group of 5,000 outlaw maniacs, basically.
Yeah.
And, it was nice because I later visited him at his house in, where the hell was his house at that time? In the gold country of California. And visited him. And, later on, even after that, he gave an interview in Iron Horse magazine, which all the outlaw bikers read. And, he mentioned the fact that he'd come to Eris and we had a good time and mentioned me. So I occurred in an outlaw biker magazine. I'm sure that's been added to my file somehow.
No doubt.
So, but, we had, Bert Rutan came and Bert just loved it. And as you know, he's working with, who's the Virgin guy?
Richard Branson.
Branson. For doing the astronautical engineering for a space company. And speaking of engineers, Paul McCready came several times, and Paul was the inventor of the Gossamer Condor and the Sun Racer and the Gossamer Albatross, first thing human powered to fly across the English Channel and all kinds of. So this thing was full. Eris was full of people like that, and I'm just scratching the surface of people. Carl Hess used to come a lot, and Carl was Barry Goldwater's speechwriter in the 1964 campaign, and he was the only white member of the Black Panther Party. And I guess Carl was best known for an interview he gave with Playboy magazine back in the days when interviews in Playboy magazine were a really big deal. And he was the one that formulated that phrase. It's extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Moderation. You know that. I'm not getting it.
I
It was very
can't
well
remember
stated.
exactly, but you can find that interview online. I encourage people to go to read it because I didn't actually know anything about Carl Hess until you mentioned him in a prior conversation we had, and then I went and found everything I could on him. And boy, what a genius! I mean, really, what a clear thinking guy he was. I mean, wow, amazing.
Yeah, he was a wild man. He was kind of like, kind of like the Eric Hoffer of the libertarian movement. And, and in my view, Eric Hoffer was a libertarian himself, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, I never met him. So anyway, there were scores of people like that, and I'm just barely scratching the surface of people I can remember off the top of my head. Anyway, that was the Eris Society, and I guess we started talking about that and I've thought in terms of starting it up again, but I thought, you know what? As with everything in life, the second law of thermodynamics conquers all. And any institution, the older it gets, the more constipated and concrete bound and corrupt it gets. And Eris, in its last years, we had all kinds of people, a friend who maybe belonged there or maybe didn't would invite his friend, hey, this is a fun party. And it's kind of a free party because I was basically putting on the goddamn party for
Yeah.
everybody. And, you know, and finally I thought we had too many looky-loos. People were looking to be entertained that didn't bring anything to the party.
Yeah.
How do you solve this problem? Well, the way I solved it was, okay, all good things must come to an end. And after 30 years, we wound it down. I thought it would be fun to start it up again because it was worthwhile and everybody missed it. Everybody that belonged there missed it.
Mm.
And even the people who didn't belong there missed it, obviously. But
Well, I think
worth doing again. Actually, what Skousen, who founded Freedom Fest a few years after that, got the idea from the Eris Society. But Freedom Fest is a very different thing than the Eris Society because the Eris Society was private and invitation only, and Freedom Fest is a lot of fun, very worthwhile, but it's not private and you pay for it. So
yeah. Well, one of the things is that there's, I think the important thing that I'm hoping to convey in this episode is that the importance of having these, meeting and building relationships with people, meeting new people, expanding relationships. I mean, it's where the richness of life comes from. And I think it's, again, more important today than probably maybe it ever has been, because we're so naturally isolated and we default to virtual only and things like that. So you can have these curated groups, which are great. I mean, we have, we started maybe 11 years ago, this travel club called the Atlas 400. And I'm, on a trip right now to go meet with some members of Atlas. And it's a small and it's definitely a curated group. But it's been great. I mean, I've had some great travel experiences, although who knows, the future, what it looks like on that. But I think there's also the side of, there's some serendipity, meeting with people just sort of at any kind of event or just on the street even. I mean, like, being open to meeting people is really, really important, especially when you're trying to make something change in your life. If you feel like if you're a young person and you're trying to figure out what the possibilities are for your life, the biggest thing you want to do is you want to expand the connections you build so that you can start to see the possibilities. Of course, as you get older, I know I have and you have too, we start to cut off some of those pathways to us because it's just too much. We can't have but anyway, so like things like Freedom Fest, I got, I imagine there's lots of very interesting people that you've sort of stumbled across there too, that not the same curated group, but still.
yeah, totally true. Totally true. Because I think I've been to every single Freedom Fest, and I look forward to it because there's always some wild and crazy people that go to that thing. I mean,
Yeah.
lots. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So anyway, I want to just make a pitch again for people to join this meetup group we have. I'll have a link in the description. Just go join it. It's free. The whole point of it is basically just to give you the opportunity to meet with people that are in your local area, and also we'll have anything where Doug's going to be at. We're he has a availability, we'll definitely have it. So we'll organize a meetup there just to get together with people who are fans of the channel. But I think it's important.
Yeah, we used to have, when I still owned Casey Research, which I've sold. I have no real association with it anymore. But when I was part of it, and we had lots of subscribers, and we started something called the Casey Phyles. And at the time, I was living in New Zealand, and we just put an announcement in the newsletter that we'd all get together. Anybody that's in New Zealand, that's a subscriber, can join the file, and we'd get together down in the Auckland Wharf at a cigar bar, and generally like 30 to 50 people would come down there every year, and I'd always be there, of course, and Rick Rule, who was living in Auckland at the time, would show up too, and we'd have a great all-day party. So sure, we can do that again if we have sufficient reach and people have sufficient interest.
Yeah. So right now so on this meetup group we have, as of this morning, I just sent out a little notice to our little email list. We had 141 people join that already. Lots of people from all over the world, some people from Israel, some people from Argentina, lots of people in the US. I mean, I saw a lot of variety there already. So yeah, join and we'll see what's possible with it. Who knows? But I do know that does seem more important than ever to have some connection with humans in meat space, in the actual physical world, rather than just being isolated in the way that we're almost self-isolating more than anything else. I mean, we don't have to cut off as many connections as we are, but we're kind of just, because the world's so irritating to deal with, those of us who, maybe don't have to engage in the world, we're lucky enough we don't have to go to, pick up the garbage every day or something like that. We seem to isolate ourselves even more. I just think it's a big mistake.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really enjoy being here in the middle of nowhere on a farm in Uruguay. Got absolutely everything I need and want, except a lot of stimulating outside company. So,
well, our viewers are probably a big beneficiary of that, frankly, because if you had full intellectual stimulation every day, I doubt it would be as easy for you or much of a priority to have these conversations. So our viewers benefit.
I guess it's a sign that we both have time on our hands at this point.
We do. Okay. Well, I think I'm just going to leave it at that for now. And just encourage people to go and sign up for that. I think I think everyone would benefit from it. I know I benefit from that kind of connection, and we'll pick it up tomorrow. And one of the things I want to talk about tomorrow is gun control. Are you up for talking about that tomorrow?
Absolutely. I'm a great believer in gun control, which I define as being able to hit your target.
That's right. Yes, exactly. And trigger control. There's a lot of there's you want to keep the gun down, right? All kinds of important things like that, but certainly not the gun control that they have in mind for us. And we'll get into the details on that tomorrow.
That's a good idea.
All right. Okay, thanks, Doug.
Okay. That went